We're very honored and happy to have with us today three female angel investors with extended experience from the investment part of startup ecosystem. Well, let's start with our first presenter, Mrs. Candace Johnson, serial entrepreneur and investor, chair of Seraphim Space Capital, advisory board of and vice chair of NorthStar East Earth and Space. And more than anything else, a person that is my own mentor, a good friend, our dearest Candace. Candace, please.
So first of all, I really want to congratulate you, Maria, for having done a startup with the ICC Women Hellas Female Founders Startup Club. I'm not surprised, but I am truly delighted. And, Maria, I'm supposed to talk about investment. And, I invest in people. And so I've invested in you. And I also have to say a little bit, I'm very proud also to say that I've invested in the person of Selma Prodanovic, who will be speaking with us. And it is truly my greatest joy when we're talking about women entrepreneurs that, that I see the investments that I have made, just flower and become so successful. Now, when I first got the invitation to speak today, I thought, Greece, democracy, Greek goddesses, obviously, fantastic women, Melina Mercouri, all of these wonderful people, Maria Callas, and I did go and look at the Greek goddesses because I said they were so strong and everything. But it turns out that even the Greek gods did not appreciate the Greek goddesses for what they were. So there's still a lot to do. Now, you asked me to talk about investing and to talk about investing in women in particular. As I say, for me, really, my investment is very much in women and in helping them create fabulous platforms from which they can really develop. And this is what gives me the greatest joy. Now, for my personal financial investments, I invest in satellites. And the reason that I invest in satellites is because that is what I know the best. And if you are a woman investor, I think it is very important to invest in what you know. I was very impressed now with the health panel. It is very clear that all of these women, are really, I want to say, I don't want to say mastering, I want to say mistressing, their fields, and they're doing such a great job. So if I were a health expert, I would invest in each of these people. They were fantastic. But I invest in satellites. And I was very fortunate to start what is today the world's largest satellite system. And, I actually invested in myself. Because when I first started it in 1983, there weren't any angel investors. There weren't any really private startups. There certainly weren't any private satellite systems, and nobody was willing to take the risk. But I had just had an exit in the United States where I had taken a job where the people who had never had corporate sponsorships, they said, okay, we will give you 10% commission on every single corporate sponsorship that you bring to us. So I called a family crisis committee and I said, I can't believe it. I've taken this job and they have never had any corporate sponsorships. And so my father said, well, if you get one, you're batting 100. So within 1 year, I actually got 7 corporate sponsorships. And then I sold the company for $3 million at the time, 1983. That's kind of the equivalent of about $15 million today for to U.S. News and World Report. And so I was getting $300,000. And it was so much money for the company that they had to pay me per year $100,000. That money I used to get SES Astra, the largest satellite system, off of ground. So if you would like, you could actually say that the first investor in SES was a woman and was a woman angel investor. Now, I've just spoken about corporates, and I understand that we have a number of corporations with us today. And I just actually got off of the phone from my ICC policy committee meeting, where I am a member and where I'm also an executive board member of the ICC. And it was my very great pleasure this last year to help the ICC do a program called Global Corporate Startup Stars. And so what we did is we matched the corporations with startups. And, this was a global event. And I always call the link between the corporations and startups a missing link. And so I would urge all of the ICC corporate members, and I know that the ICC has an amazing chapter with, first of all, our dear friend Nikos Vernikos, but then also the mayor of Sparta, and of course now Maria as the head of the Female Founders Startup Cluster. So the link between corporations and startups is very important because it brings innovation toward the corporation. And we were also just hearing about diversity. And quite frankly, it also brings diversity to the corporation, also with gender, with race, with age, with a different outlook. So this is very, very important. I have, you asked me if I have ever been in a female-led startup. Well, I actually, every single startup that I have started has obviously been led by myself. But I would like to point out two women today who I think are really absolutely topping the charts. And they may not be so well known. So the first one is Gwynne Shotwell. Gwynne is the president and COO of SpaceX. Okay, so people hear about Elon Musk. Well, let me tell you, Gwynne, who was a math major, is very into STEM, goes around the world inspiring young women to get into STEM, just like some of our health experts also said, please get into this field. It is so exciting. And Gwynne is really the one who is bringing us to Mars, who is, who did the reusable space launcher, who's bringing us to the moon. So even though she did not, quote unquote, start the company, she is definitely leading it. And she was number 11 employee. The second one is a woman named Peggy Johnson. Here again, Peggy studied engineering at San Diego State University, and she was employed by Qualcomm. She was one of the first women engineers to be employed by Qualcomm. Or to be employed, period. And she became the president of Qualcomm International. She was then hired away from Qualcomm, where she went to Microsoft to become the EVP, the executive vice president. And she was the one who did the $4.1 billion deal between Microsoft and LinkedIn. Fabulous woman. So at age 56, Peggy decided now to go and lead a startup called Magic Leap, which is basically bringing virtual reality into schools, into corporations, etc. So these are two women who are really breaking the barriers. And, it's one thing to be a startup and to get something started. And Maria, that's why I'm just so excited about what you have done, because, you have really started this from the ground up. So and it takes so much energy to do this. And then it takes as much energy to bring this entrepreneurial startup mindset into large corporations and to succeed. And that's why I say that Peggy and Gwen have succeeded in this. I've been asked to share in kind of the last moment that I will speak about, my experience as an investor in a female startup, or quite frankly, I think just my experience as a startup entrepreneur, because very often I was one and the same. And I think that, no matter what, you have to always have the goal that you serve as being the number one priority. Whenever I started anything, or whenever I was, in a company, which wasn't very often, but, I always wanted to make certain that I would achieve success. And when I achieved success, then I could be a role model. So I think that whether you are the woman entrepreneur, or whether you are a woman investing in a woman entrepreneur, you have to make certain and inspire them to go beyond themselves and to achieve the goal, because in so doing, they will then break open the glass ceilings and the barriers and allow true success to happen.
Thank you very much, Candace. It's an amazing speech, very inspiring as always. Thank you so much for the good words you said for me. I'm very pleased. I'm very touched for what you said about me. It's very important having you here with us today, not because you're EBAN Emeritus President, not because you're an ICC executive member, but because you are what you are, Candace, and you can inspire lots of Greek female corporate and female scientists and female entrepreneurs here in Greece to follow your steps. Thank you so much for what you said today.
Yeah.
Well, let's proceed now to our second speaker. It's Mrs. Marina Hatzopoulos, a Greek American angel investor entrepreneur that has heavily contributed to the Greek startup ecosystem. Actually, Marina, you are our bridge between Greece and the United States. Actively so heavily, board chair of electronics technology, speaker at TEDx, advisor at MIT Enterprise Forum Greece, president of the Hellenic Innovation Network, and a person and a woman that has a lot to share with our Greek female angel investors and entrepreneurs and startups here in Greece. I'd like to hear about what you've done and what you've achieved, Marina.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I love hearing these other speakers. Just by way of background, I co-founded Z Corporation, an early leader in 3D printing out of MIT. 4 of us co-founded it, all 4 of us out of MIT, grew the business to over 100 employees, and we became an early market leader before selling it. At that point, I had 4 young children at home, and I really didn't want to be CEO anymore. And regarding, any challenges being a woman, I think Joanna, a couple of speakers earlier, said it so well that entrepreneurship has no gender. It's just really hard. And so, for me, I've worked with men my whole career, and it's been an amazing experience. But after selling the business, I didn't want to be CEO, but I really missed certain aspects of it. I loved working with technology, creating something new. and working with the team. So I wanted some of that. And that's when I turned to investing. I started in the United States, but over time, the Greek startup ecosystem got going. And so I've started to invest in Greece, where I see tremendous opportunity. I invest primarily in hardware technology because those are often the startups that have the most difficulty in finding funding, as I saw myself directly at Z Corporation. I've invested in a range of companies, and I'm not going to list them because you probably wouldn't know their names. But as Candace said, investing is about investing in people. It's all about the team. And I've invested in 2 women-founded startups. The first one I was very heavily involved in. It was founded by an extremely impressive woman with very strong drive. Unfortunately, the business was in the area of consumer retail, which is far outside my area of knowledge. So I wasn't really able to help her navigate such issues like customer acquisition cost. You know, when you're dealing with a consumer product reaching a potentially enormous market, that's absolutely critical. But I really enjoyed working with her. It was she was a very young entrepreneur, so I found it really interesting to see what business tools they used, which were very often different than what I was used to. And in particular, I was really interested and learned from her. She was very thoughtful and careful about building culture in her company. And she thought a lot more about it than I ever had at Z Corporation. And so I thought that was really interesting. There was a very collegial, very friendly atmosphere at work. And it was very much something thoughtful that she had created. The whole team in this particular startup was women, which was very unusual for me. I've worked on many boards and many companies where it's all men. I've never, until this experience, worked with all women. And I have to say, having done both, I think single gender organizations are not ideal. I think men and women both bring something to the table. And so I don't think it's ideal to have a single gender. But I did learn from the investment. I learned that, as Candace said, you got to stick to what you know. For me, that's technology and specifically hardware. Having said that, they were amazing board meetings, fascinating, educational. The whole experience was really interesting. And so, I love to see and learn from what she had created in terms of the culture, the corporate culture. The second investment I made is in a technology business based in Athens called Advantis, which sells software for MRI imaging. I'm not involved in that business other than having invested in it. But that also has a female entrepreneur at the helm. I think if we want to generate more female entrepreneurs, we need to focus on the pipeline. So it all starts in school. And so I think encouraging girls to pursue STEM and making sure during those critical middle grade years that we don't lose them. A lot of girls will have an interest in math, and for whatever reason, they get sidetracked. So making sure that they stay on their path and they see the role models ahead and what kind of career paths are available to them. I think that's the greatest way we can fill this pipeline and create a lot more great female entrepreneurs on the back end.
Maria, if I may, since Marina she was better than me, she ended sooner. Marina, fascinating, and congratulations on what you've achieved. I talked about STEM, and I talked about women, and young women learning, the STEM subjects and really going into them also at an early age. I have 5 degrees in music, and yet I am only in technology. I'm, 100% satellites, hardware. I love it. I'm with you. I own 15% of a telephone manufacturing company. But I believe that STEM, but also It is time for women to understand that, and it is time for men and the world to understand that what is really going to be important in the future is geopolitical issues. And that, so just as important as STEM, we must also make certain that we have philosophers, that we have poets, that we have musicians, that we have political scientists, because this is what is really driving trade, and I am on the board of a company where 67% owned by a Chinese company, hardware and a software company. We're 67% owned by China. We are listed on the Paris Stock Exchange, and we're going to the United States as our biggest market. Now these are huge things that we have to think about. And the fact that the ship was stuck in the canal, was terrible. So just a little, something to add to the discussion for later on.
Thank you, Candace, for the comment. Always at the point. Okay. Well, Marina, thank you very much and for your speech and what you have done up to now for the Greek ecosystem. And let me now introduce a female business angel that, among other things, she has been named as Startup Grand Dame. She's passionate about entrepreneurship and empowering women. She's the founder of Little TV, the 1 million startups, and the European Business Angel Network Vice President. Selma, you're extremely inspiring when you're talking. I don't know what to say. I mean, today our audience here in Greece are very lucky having all the three of you here. But please now proceed. The floor is yours, and we're very curious and very interesting to learn more about your investment journey.
Thank you, Maria. It's an awesome pleasure to be here today with you and to joining great women that have already spoken before me. And I have to give credits to Candace for many things that I've done in my life because she made it possible. And there is my first point, definitely. It is about supporting each other. Women supporting women to move forward, to come forward. Encouraging very often. Very often it is an issue that we have is that we don't come forward. We don't voice our needs. We don't voice our capabilities. And this is where other women can come in to give that space and to give that possibility to mentor, to support, to encourage, and to back up also financially. Let's go back just to the idea, what does it mean to be a business angel as such? Business angel is a person that not only invests money, like financial capital, but also invests social capital, the network. Who do you know in that field that you are in? And also invest human capital, which is the knowledge about the industry. As Marina was saying, keep on touching, as Candace, stay where you are and what you know. So basically a business angel invests three sorts of capital: financial, human, and social. This is a totally different approach, especially because business angels invest into a very early stage, and they trust and they believe that this startup can succeed without having the numbers to really say that that is true. And that is very important. They get involved and they get engaged. There are two factors here that are important for us as women. Is one, the fact that many women that I know, especially in the corporate world, are mentors, are supporting other women. They start by supporting, and then they give their network, they give their knowledge, and even at some point in time, they give some money, but they do not transform that into a professional angel investing relationship. And that is what I would like to see changing in this professionalization of the relationship, which is very important for both sides, for the investor, the mentor, to have a part and a percentage of the business, but also for the mentee, or in this case, really the startup and the invested person, because finally they know that their startup, their business idea is worth the investment. And that is very important. It's not just being nice to each other. There is a good business and both sides are together. That is one segment that is very important. And second thing is the love of being an angel investor. It is amazing when you're an entrepreneur, a born entrepreneur, like Candace was saying, just when when you are just an entrepreneur, you want to see solutions, you're solutions oriented, you have that mindset and you want to do that. But as Marina was saying, at some point in time, you don't want to be the CEO anymore. So what is the best solution? Even if you're in a corporate and you're having a higher position or you have the money to do so, you can get involved into a startup, support other entrepreneurs, especially women, of course, and be part of that entrepreneurial spirit, be part of this creation of solutions. And this is what I'm really interested in. My field are the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. There are 17 goals that were created by the United Nations in 2015, which cover all the big challenges of our time. And I see my role in supporting women and men, entrepreneurs, to get involved in creating the solutions to the big challenges of our time. It doesn't matter how big their scale is, it is about really supporting that entrepreneurial spirit and creating the solutions. I personally have been really involved in creating the ecosystems. I love creating the communities. I love creating the system, the ground where something can grow and that something can happen. So I'm not so interested into the single startup as much as being part as, for example, this today, because it is moving more people. And this is what I love doing, is impacting and inspiring and just giving people, and especially women, definitely the courage, the trust that you can do much more than whatever you have learned. I would just like to mention one little detail. I have created a program which is called Live Your Dream Life, which is a program especially created for women, multitasking women. And one part of that is talking about the myths that were created about women. One of the things that we know is the romantic love, right? So if your husband, your lover, your man loves you enough, he will know what you want without you telling anything. Right? So if I say it, I don't want it anymore. I find that as one of the worst things that has happened to us, because we never learn to voice our needs, because we wait for things to happen to us. And that's something that we do that in private, but then it transfers also very often into the business life, where we are waiting for somebody to discover us. We are waiting for somebody to tell us, oh, you are such a great worker, you're doing such a great job, I will give you a promotion, I will give you more money, and I will invest with you. My job, my role, my inspiration, and my mission is for women to have a voice and to say what they want, what they need, and what they are capable of. This is my role here today, and I'm looking forward to see many, many entrepreneurs and many business angels to grow from here.
Thank you, Selma. Thank you very much for your speech, for the way that you inspire today our Greek female angels to be and entrepreneurs. Actually, you have said everything. I have no question to answer you because you have covered everything. And I have to admit and say that today our audience is very lucky having the three of you with such extended experience, investment experience. We could never imagine the greatest role model for female investment having you today. We're very honored. And me personally, and ICC Winners, thank you so much for your speech and for what you've contributed with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Selma. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's never been a better time to be a woman than today. So
definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.